Ladies and gentlemen, what is up, and welcome today to a bit of an early review video on Taskmaster in Marvel Contest of Champions. And in today's video, I really want to talk about what I perceive to be the strengths and weaknesses of this character, and then go on to explain in quite a lot of detail about all his abilities and various interactions, and some of the crazy stuff that you can do with this character, because he has one really awesome interaction that I just haven't really seen anybody else making videos on, but we have showcased in a couple of our videos so far. Now, to top line Taskmaster, what are the pros, the strengths and weaknesses of this character? So on the plus side, you kind of have two things, which is his block and his ability accuracy reduction. His block is just amazing at base level, but as you progress through the fight, you get up to a 50% chance to land a perfect block, which is just so strong. And then the second thing is ability accuracy reduction. Once you are roughly about 30 hits into the fight, kind of depends on power gain and the various ways that you play the character. You can have a guaranteed 50% ability accuracy reduction, but then also via signature ability, you cycle from a 10 to 50% ability accuracy reduction if you are taking advantage of the exploit weaknesses. So combined, this means the majority of the time that you are going to be very close to 100% ability accuracy reduction on the opponent, which is amazing for taking advantage of certain characters like Magic, like Spider-Man, Miles Morales could potentially be quite good for Nightcrawler as well. So yeah, I think he's going to have some really strong matchups in any scenario where ability accuracy reduction is kind of a major player, because he can ramp up fairly quickly, and it seems quite effective in some of the showcase videos that we've done so far, like Taskmaster against Magic. We didn't get a single limbo block, and since then I've kind of learned to play him a little bit better, so we could, get the ability accuracy reduction even quicker. But yes, those are the two pros of the character. Now, in terms of cons, I think one of the kind of first things is I think his awakened ability is almost essential if you want to rank up and play this character, because the awakened ability, it does two things. It's half of your ability accuracy reduction, and simultaneously the ability accuracy reduction is in the form of concussion debuffs, which also interact with your special attacks, giving you significantly increased damage. So if you don't have the character awakened, you lose half the ability accuracy reduction, so the max you can go up to is 50%, and also your special attacks are going to be hitting significantly less hard. And that is on the second con, which is the character already doesn't really have that great damage output. Like, if you're looking for a character that does absolutely insane damage, Taskmaster, he's definitely not the character for you. And I think in terms of going for this guy as a 5-star, I really haven't seen anything that would entice me, or any reason on paper why you would go for Taskmaster over a character like Blade, who has significantly stronger utility in my opinion, and much more effective damage output. So I think that's another con of Taskmaster. I think he's a bit in the shadow of, well, quite a bit in the shadow of champions like Wormhole and Blade, in terms of the skill class and like resources to invest in him. So yeah, those are some of the cons really. Just that he needs to kind of be awakened. The damage output really isn't that great, and also he's a bit of initially a tad of a complicated character to play, because there are a few things you need to learn with this character, and a few things that you already need to keep in mind. And I think we'll kind of transition into the next section by talking about what those three things are. So the very first thing is an ability called Photographic Reflexes, which cannot be tracked on either yourself or your opponent, which is one of my first pieces of feedback on this character, is there should be some sort of buff on you and your opponent to keep track of this, because you're pissing in the dark at the moment. You have no idea exactly how many stacks you're on, so you just need to kind of keep mental note of this. So this is based off each unique attack that your opponent lands, and also each unique attack that you make do various stuff. So each attack your opponent attempts decreases their offensive ability accuracy by 10%, while also increasing your perfect block chance by the same amount. So when we're talking about unique attacks, what the assumption is led to believe is this is Like, one unique attack is like a light, a medium, a heavy, a special 1, a special 2. So those are the 5 unique attacks in the game. There's also a special 3 as well, but being struck by a special attack resets both of these ability effects. So it's interesting to, keep that in mind. If you do get hit by a special attack, you lose both of them. While simultaneously, each unique attack made by you decreases your opponent's defensive ability accuracy by 10%. So I believe, actually thinking about this, I think this can actually go up to 60% instead of 50, because on you have the special 1, the special 2, but you can also do the special 3. You can also get, the medium, light, and heavy. So I think you can get base a minus 60% ability accuracy reduction on the opponent, but that's approximately after about 60 or so hits. But after about 30 hits, you can have the special 1, you can have the special 2, you would have got your heavy off, mediums and lights in the standard combo. So yeah, that's interesting, but I really, really wish there was a way to keep track of this resource, because it's just a little bit hard to tell sometimes. But yeah, it's just something you kind of need to get into a habit of, is, firing off a heavy attack, and heavy attacks come pretty cleanly in the rotation as well, and also using every special attack once to get the maximum ability accuracy reduction on your opponent. Now, the second thing is something called Exploit Weakness, which Brian Grant has done a really awesome video on how to essentially take advantage of Exploit Weakness and the mechanic with a heavy attack. So, essentially, you have to, every 10 seconds with a 5-second cooldown, so there's going to be 10 seconds where you can exploit, and then it's going to go 5-second cooldown, and at the start of that 10 seconds, it's going to bring up the last attack that your opponent attempted. So if the last attack your opponent attempted or fired off was a heavy attack, then within that 10 seconds, you need to land a heavy attack to successfully trigger Exploit Weakness, and it's going to deal direct damage equal to about, I think it's like 80% of your attack, and an attack that will trigger Exploit Weakness will never trigger a passive evade or auto block, so that's interesting to keep in mind as well. And also, after Exploit Weakness is triggered or expires again, as we mentioned earlier, it goes on cooldown for 5 seconds. And that kind of ties in with the Awakened ability, which is Concussion here. So each time the Taskmaster successfully triggers an Exploit Weakness, it places a Concussion debuff on the opponent, reducing their ability accuracy by 10%. Now, this is based off the signature level as well. I think the time of the concussion debuffs and also the percentage of them are based on the signature level. So I think for Taskmaster to be quite an effective champion as well, which might be another weakness of the character, again, it's a little bit hard to tell because we don't have any, like, all the content creators got a dupe level 99 one, so we can't see what it's like starting out. But the concussion, you need to play quite aggressively to get up to 5 stacks of this, but if you get up to 5 stacks, you get a mega concussion, which reduces ability accuracy by 50%, so all of the stacks merge into one, and that lasts for 15 seconds and counts as 5 debuffs for Taskmaster's other abilities. And also, and here's the really important part, it removes the Exploit Weakness cooldown timer, which has a very, very interesting interaction with Taskmaster's Special 1, which means that you can absolutely rinse the opponent, because when it doesn't have any cooldown on the Exploit Weakness, every single attack that you're doing is triggering Exploit Weakness. So if you can bait out a Special 1 on the opponent, and you have a Special 1 ready to fire back, every single attack of that Special 1 is going to trigger Exploit Weakness, and you can just keep on doing this on a loop if you have, like, the Crossbones synergy, I believe it is, that grants you power whenever you trigger an Exploit Weakness. Like, this is just an absolutely insane potential combo there. So yeah, that's my little pro tip there. You just got to bait the Special 1 and then just retaliate with a load of Special 1s, man, and the damage is absolutely insane. So yeah, that's a bit of a pro tip when it comes to getting a really nice chunk of burst on Taskmaster, and I've been finding that combo so much fun to play around with. We showed it off in the MODOK video, and also the Magic video as well for finishing off both of those characters. And then we also have the heavy attacks, which synergize with Exploit Weakness as well. So if Exploit Weakness is on cooldown, the cooldown immediately ends and the target is set. If Taskmaster has triggered Exploit Weakness in the last 1 second, so if you, for example, do a medium attack, attack, then you can instantly do a heavy attack and avoid any incoming attacks for the first 1 second. So it's very similar to stuff like Hood's invisibility, or like Spider-Gwen when she ignores the first hit when, you know, an attack is used on her when she's charging a heavy attack there. So that's pretty damn cool. However, I guess something to note with the second part of that heavy attack is that you will not really want to use any heavy attacks. Like, it's a massive, massive gamble to throw in heavy attacks whenever your opponent has power. And it's really tough to find scenarios kind of deep into fights where your opponent doesn't have any power at all. Because usually it's the case of, you know, bait a special attack and then go in for a full combo. But the heavy attacks, you know, are a really, really good way to quickly ramp up the charges of, what is it, exploit weakness and concussion if you want kind of that very, very strong ability accuracy from the get-go, which I assume is going to be very, very useful when it comes to fighting a lot of magics. So yeah, some important stuff to bear in mind there. Then we have the special attacks and all the stuff they do. So the special attack 1 causes bleed lasting 5 seconds and deals damage per debuff triggered on the opponent this fight, max damage after 10 debuffs, and this attack also gains a additional amount of attack for each debuff active on either Taskmaster or his opponent. So again, this scales really, really well the more concussion debuffs that you have up. The special attack 2 is exactly the same as the special attack 1, but instead of bleed, it is an armor break, and instead of debuffs, it is per buff triggered on the opponent this fight. So imagine that to be maybe a little bit better if you're fighting like an Old Man Logan or a Groot, but I don't really see too much of a general use for the special attack 2 in the majority of fights. It looks like the special attack 1 is going to be the one to go for the majority of people, but if your opponent is bleed immune, then I think it's the special attack 2 that you probably want to fire off the majority of the time. So yeah, that's an interesting one to keep in mind. And then we have the special attack 3, which is essentially a combination of the special attack 1 and 2. So you get both the bleed, both the armor break, and also bonus attack for each debuff active on either Taskmaster or his opponent. And then also, if there's an active exploit weakness target, it is automatically triggered and deals a certain amount of additional direct damage. So yeah, some pretty cool stuff there. I think, as we talked about earlier, just due to the way that the photographic reflexes ability works, I think it's a very, very good idea to use every special attack once in the matchups where you want to absolutely rinse the opponent's ability accuracy, just so you have kind of that strong base of a 60% ability accuracy reduction there. So that's pretty damn cool. And then when we talk about the synergies, we have the one with Hawkeye, which I find quite fun, which is if Taskmaster's current exploit weakness target attack is a special attack, all his special attacks become unblockable. Again, this has really, really awesome synergy with the special one when you have the mega concussion on your opponent. And also Hawkeye's special 3 gains 100% chance to trigger his hemorrhage, which is the really, really strong bleed. When we have Winter Soldier, current exploit weakness target attack has a 20% chance to become unblockable. I don't really think that one's too useful. It's just a lot of variance there, so I don't really rate that one too much. But also, if you pair him with Winter Soldier, it will upgrade Winter Soldier's power drain and give it a flat plus 5% chance to trigger, so that's pretty useful there. And then we have the Moon Knight synergy, which will allow him to gain a 30% chance to evade against his current exploit weakness target. Now, I think if you wanted to use this character as a defender, I think you want to pair him with Moon Knight. Like, if you want this character on Alliance War defense, you want to have Taskmaster and Moon Knight, because there is one additional thing as well, which I actually didn't talk about, but I should just quickly cover, which is this passive called Learn the Foe, which I think is important to bear in mind when you're fighting the character, but when you're fighting the character, I don't think has much practical application. So each time a debuff is placed on Taskmaster, all future debuffs placed on him have their potency reduced by 10%. So essentially, after 10 debuffs, you are completely immune to debuffs for the rest of the fight. But for the majority of fights, by the time that's happened, you are already dead if you're playing Taskmaster. But if you're fighting a really stacked one, I guess that's important to bear in mind, because if you're going to bring like a bleed champion, that's going to absolutely rinse through the amount of debuffs, and he's going to very, very quickly become immune to any form of stuns. So that's just something to keep in mind when fighting Taskmaster, especially in the monthly event quest. And also the buff to Moon Knight is all of Moon Knight's Moon Phase abilities gain a flat plus 10% chance to trigger. So yeah, that's pretty cool there. But just to go back and talk about, you know, what Taskmaster gains from that synergy. So if we're thinking about Alliance War, if you had like a fairly stacked Taskmaster, you'd have, for the majority of time, 30% chance to evade. Like, it's going to be, you know, 10 out of every 15 seconds that exploit weakness is going to be active. While simultaneously being stun immune very, very quickly. So I think he's going to be quite a strong defender on kind of the random outskirts, like ambush nodes. So I'm interested to see if people are going to be getting some Alliance War defense kills with Taskmaster there. I don't think he's going to be the best character, but I reckon he's going to throw quite a few people off. And then finally we have Professor in Crime with Crossbones, which is the one that I quite like, especially with the special wand synergy when the mega concussion is up. So Taskmaster will instantly gain 5% of his max power each time he exploits a weakness, and again, once you got the concussion and your special one is just like pop 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 exploit weakness, you see it like roll down the screen. Like, this can just give you an insane burst of power there. And also Crossbones, the way that he benefits is entering Overrun, resets the duration of all active Fury buffs. So I'm interested to maybe have a little bit of a play about and test around with the Crossbones one a little bit more, but that seems like a cool little addition to the character. But overall, I think my favorite synergies, you know, if you actually want to play this character, I think are the Crossbones one and the Hawkeye one, but alternatively, if you just want, you know, more overall damage, like a standard mutant crit team synergy seems pretty effective as well. But again, this character, he isn't really built for damage, man. He's built for ability accuracy reduction and survivability in terms of having a really, really good base block chance, and also, you know, accruing that block proficiency. Perfect block chance as the fight progresses and the opponent uses a variety of their attacks. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for my thoughts on Taskmaster. I think he's very much a utility version of Captain America. I just think Captain America with a really strong ability accuracy reduction, and I think while he's not going to be the most popular champion that's been released this year, I think he's going to have some decent uses in the game, especially when it comes to fighting magics, and I'm very, very happy that we are having more champions in this game that are good for fighting magics, because magics are just a massive pain in the ass. But again, I don't think this is a character that I'm overly bothered about having or investing in for this time period. I don't really have much of a desire to get this champion and rank him up once this one is, you know, removed from my account. You know, he'll be a champion that comes around in about 6 months time in Arena, and I'll be pretty happy to see him then. But yeah, I don't really feel kind of an immediate rush or desire to have this character, but he's pretty damn cool. He's pretty damn cool regardless. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think of Taskmaster in the comments below. Apart from that, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, feel free to smash that like button. That'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much for watching. Take care and have an absolutely fantastic day.